Rumor mill, ladies and gentlemen. Bo and Vlad, after the Jays lose to the worst team in Major League Baseball, are now on the trade block.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available for U.S. customers. I'm Braden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can follow me on Twitter, Braden5Iwasko. Carter First, too. We're going to bring you guys all the most up-to-date Blue Jays information. And oh my goodness, do we have a big one today. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop a subscription here on YouTube. Really helps us out. We've noticed a lot of you guys aren't subscribed. So do that. Help us out. Help yourself out. Keep all the news at the top of your page. This game sucked, but we got some bigger fish to fry right now, Carter. It is reported by Mark. What is it? Mark, you know how to say this. I can't say this name. Mark.
Well, we're all speculating because I've never heard about this guy, but I think we've proven on this podcast that maybe I'm the better pronouncer than you, maybe the reader. I guess, I don't know. That's
sure.
Yeah, okay. Whatever. I'll take a shot at this. What I'm trying to say here. Mark Feinsand is how I would pronounce it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'll get back to you.
So Mark Feinsand or whatever reports that Bo and Vlad, there might be talks right now going on around the MLB of what the Toronto Blue Jays are going to do. Apparently, there's been talks about moving both of them at this trade deadline if this team continues to perform like this. They get into more, but they've asked around the league, and apparently this is true. I don't know. I don't want to say it's been a long time coming, but I think the writing's been on the wall, Carter. I hate to say that, but the writing's on the wall. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I think looking back a bunch of years ago, you saw the potential that this baseball team had, and it just doesn't feel like anything's happened. It feels like we're still in the same place where we're struggling to make the playoffs every single year. And I don't know. They want to trade Bo and Vlad to retool the team. And apparently what they're asking for is an absolute boatload, which, fair enough, it should be a boatload. But are they going to actually get anything? Like, are teams going to pay the price for Vlad and Bo? I don't know. What are your whole thoughts on this? Honestly, what are you thinking?
I think they're just doing their due diligence at this point. I think they're throwing out just crazy numbers, crazy asks, just to kind of see like what they could get back in a trade scenario. When you're looking at these two players with Bo Bichette, I think you're getting more for Bo Bichette than Vladdy, because Bo Bichette is the more proven player. This guy's led the AL and hits 2 of the last 3 years. Probably not going to happen this year. And again, a little bit of a down year, you could say, for Bo. But with this team right now, it feels like we don't really have a direction. You look at this window we had. I'd say it started in 2020 when we got Hyun Jin Ryu, the first big signing for this Blue Jays team. You've made the playoffs twice, and you don't have a division win. You have your best thing so far is you had a first wild card spot that you won. You got a home playoff series, and you haven't won a playoff game. That is the reality we're living in as Toronto Blue Jays fans. And now you're looking at a team that just lost the Chicago White Sox, as we'll get into more coming up. But going back to Vladdy does, like, these players both have value. And I feel like this is going to pick up if this team continues to play like this, which it's hard. It's really hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel right now with how this is going for this Toronto Blue Jays offense, especially. But I've never been more open, I want to say, to moving Vladdy and Bo. Before this, at the start of this season, even, I want to say that I was on like, absolutely not. We are not moving these guys. But at this point, are they necessarily the problem? You could definitely argue that, but I'm almost on the point where clearly something has not worked for the last 5 years. And I've said this about John Schneider multiple times. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. you've had the same core for the last 5 seasons, and you haven't gotten any of the results you've wanted, unless you're happy with a wild card playoff spot, as apparently the Jays are with the wild card banner that we saw in the Rogers Center. But like I said, this team has no direction, and for me, this little soft stretch we have here is going to be the biggest thing for the Toronto Blue Jays. If you can't get out of this soft stretch winning 9, 10, I'm going to say minimum 8 games, if they somehow go under 500 during this stretch, I think I'm almost going to be completely out on this team. I mean, it's not going to get any easier. And at that point, I think it's only going to pick up validity with the actual possibility of Bo Bichette or Vladdy. I wouldn't say it's going to be both, but Bo Bichette or Vladdy being traded at the deadline. And maybe this doesn't necessarily mean we're selling, because in the article they said that the Jays would like to retool, not necessarily sell, because they still have a lot of guys under contract for the 2025 season. But the end of the 2025 season is the perceived end of the window. So again, if you're not having any team success and you're not going to switch anything up, you're going to get the same result at the end of the year. So the Jays' time is running out. Obviously, the fans have clearly been saying this. We've been a little bit more lenient, and I think a little bit defending, like more defensive for this team, trying to stand by them. But man, is it getting hard at this point?
Well, Carter, I think it's an absolute disaster situation for Toronto right now in general. You look at the Maple Leafs. Everybody's talking about selling some of the guys off their core 4, right? And I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to get better players than some of those guys. So I don't necessarily agree with that. And it's a different situation because obviously they have a capped league. We don't have a capped league. But the Toronto Blue Jays, I feel very differently. I feel like the Toronto Maple Leafs shouldn't sell guys. And I feel like the Toronto Blue Jays, if it keeps going this way, they probably should. They probably should for a retool. Because Vlad right now, for the past couple seasons, hasn't been the guy you needed him to be. And Bo Bichette, I mean, yeah, they're both somewhat starting to pick it up. Bo Bichette is having an off year as well. And I mean, to be honest, if they can retool and better position this team to make a better playoff push than struggling to get in every year and not making anything happen, Carter, at the end of the day, I'm sort of, I don't want to say I'm for this because I don't want to see these guys go, but I'm sort of for it. I want to see this team succeed, and I want to see this team do well. And right now, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I mean, you got young guys. You got, I mean, guys that can produce. I mean, Jano, you got Davis Schneider, you got Ernie Clement to fill a role. You got IKF playing pretty decently, honestly. There's a lot of these guys, Dalton Varsho, like, but you need those bigger names, or you gotta move something around and figure it out. And I feel like we're almost getting to that point. I'm tired. I'm tired. This team is exhausting. Like, yes, I know we came off the trip and watching the baseball, and we had, positive feelings. But I think that, looking back now, that's a little bit of a misdirect because we had fun on the trip. It wasn't necessarily because the Blue Jays played unbelievable baseball. And so now I'm sitting here watching games back on the television, and I think, wow, this team sucks. We got 2 hits on Garrett Crochet today. 2 hits.
They had 2 hits in the game.
Yeah.
In the entire game, they had 2 hits.
In the entire game, yeah. We had 2 hits. And against the worst team in baseball. I mean, at what point do you say, it's different if we're winning a bunch of other games, then you drop one, okay, stuff happens. But we're not winning ball games. We're not doing the right things. The Blue Jays are they're just bad. And I don't want to, I didn't want to say that, but at this point, with all the news coming about them trading them, and if they're asking around and trying to figure out what to do, how does this look from a fan perspective? They got to sell this team, not sell the whole team, but sell these guys. They got to retool. If the clubhouse is thinking about this, and the media is thinking about this, the fans are getting absolutely raked over the coals. I don't know. And I don't want to be like over dramatic, but what else do you want to see happen? Do you stand pat and hope for the best and not make the playoffs the next 3 years? Or do you got to make something happen? If they want to win now, they might have to make something happen here.
Yeah, and Garrett Crochet, yeah, he looked good today, but at the end of the day, you got to stop making excuses for this offense because it doesn't matter who's pitching. Garrett Crochet is, I would say, an average pitcher. You could debate he's above average pitcher, but he's definitely not elite. So imagine if this team somehow does make the playoffs, and they're going to have to go against some of these top pitchers in the league. They're going to have to face the Corbin Burnses. They're going to have to face the Garrett Coles, and they can't even get more than 2 hits on Garrett Crochet. How are they supposed to do any damage in the playoffs at all? I mean, just and look what this team does against bad pitching. You got Tyler Alexander, like the game that we were at on the Friday. This guy had an over a 5.5 ERA and he throws 89 and they got perfect games through 7 innings. You look at Patrick Corbin, statistically the worst guy in pitcher in the league, and they give this guy a quality start. You look at Bailey Ober, not necessarily as bad as these guys. But this guy, along with multiple others, I'm just rambling some off the top of my head. This guy had his career best day against this Toronto Blue Jays offense. It's so painful to watch these games. And at some point, like, you can't make excuses for the offense anymore. And it's not necessarily Vladdy's fault, you could say. Maybe it's not necessarily Bo Bichette's fault, but Vladdy's on pace for like 13 home runs. That's just not going to cut it from a guy that's supposed to be this generational hitter and the best hitter on this baseball team. It sucks. And you say IKF's playing good baseball. His last 7 games, he doesn't have a hit. You look at David Schneider, yeah. He's struggling through his last 7 games. He's batting 143. So again, and going into the season, you shouldn't have had to rely on IKF, and you shouldn't really have to rely on David Schneider. It would be nice if you get production from these guys, but you're supposed to be relying on your big dogs like Bo Bichette and Vladdy. And yes, Vladdy is hitting singles, but it's very hard to string together 3-4 singles, 3-4 hits in a row in the MLB. You need some guys to hit home runs. Bo Bichette has never really been that guy, but Vladdy has shown glimpses of being that guy. And we're just at the point where I think a lot of Blue Jays fans are just sick and tired of seeing. I don't even know if you can call us a mediocre team at this point. The pitching makes it mediocre, I would say, because this starting rotation, I'll die on this hill. They are unbelievable. That's not the problem with this team. I mean, the bullpen, even if you thought this team might have had a chance, we'll go into this game that just happened later on in segment 2. But you look at this bullpen, it was 3-0. The bullpen comes in, they give up a run pretty much immediately. Like it's not giving the offense even a chance. But again, I'm not going to blame the bullpen when you're getting 2 hits in a baseball game.
Yeah, no. And I saw a quote from John Schneider today that, well, we faced a good pitcher. You got to tip your cap some days. John, open your eyes, John. I was about to say something that I shouldn't have there. John, open your eyes, please. This is terrible baseball. And don't get, Carter, I think the one good thing with our podcast, we're never going to be the guys that don't let people know when they're being ridiculous, when they're making mistakes. We're going to call guys out. John Schneider should have been called out from day one of this baseball team because he continues to say the stupidest things possible. And it just aggravates me from a guy that's supposed to be the manager of a baseball team that's supposed to hold these guys a little bit accountable. There's been nothing. There's been 0 people held accountable. You're saying you get 2 hits in a baseball game. Your first thought is tip your cap to the pitcher. John, we're not winning baseball games. We haven't won the series in forever. Like, I was over the moon, Carter.
It's the day we're recording this is coming on the 22nd, but it's been over a month since we've won a series at this point. Like it doesn't feel like it's getting better. And at some point, I get it in a little bit of a sense where you're the manager of a baseball team. You got to protect your guys. You don't want to kind of just crap all over them, but they haven't shown anything. They haven't given us even like 3 straight good baseball games. This team hasn't swept a series. Like we said, they haven't won a series in a very long time. This for me is like almost, again, I mean, like it's 1-1. They have a chance to win a series tomorrow, but
this is the worst baseball team in the whole league. Like this almost doesn't matter if we win this series. We should have swept this series. Honestly,
they need to sweep bad. So, I mean, at this point, like the Jays really, it's like I said, at the end of this series, I'm like, if I'm going to have my mind made up about this team, if maybe I'm being a little bit delusional, not having my mind made up already. And one thing I want to get in before we start breaking down the series, I was just looking on the Score app, and it's the first time, I don't know if you've never noticed this, but this is the first time that I have noticed that there's like a chat setting on the Score. So I was just going through a few of these, and these comments, I mean, there's some of them I just can't agree with. I can't disagree with. no urgency, only 3-point games out of a wild card. They just look terrible as one of them. What suckers the Toronto Blue Jays fans are. And like, I don't know if the Blue Jays fans are necessarily suckers, but
I think
I
it's a
know for
little bit of
me,
delusion. It's
yes,
delusion.
and that's exactly what I was going to get into. Is this team? We're getting spoon-fed by Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro on the Blue Jays media that this team can be so good. When you look at how bad this offense was last year, you look at how bad this offense has been this year. It's been somehow even worse. It's like, how are you supposed to be positive about the team anymore? But I mean, saying that, with Vladdy and Bo, what are your overall thoughts? We'll get moving on here to maybe some more positive stuff, but I mean, we're going to be breaking down a series. We lost 5-0 to the worst, with the team with the worst record in baseball. But I'll give it back to you. What's your final stance on this Vladdy and Bo stuff?
My final stance is that this is a long time coming. Like I said, writing on the wall a little bit here. I think the fans were a little bit. I don't know if I want to call all the fans and us delusional, but I was delusional. I thought this team had a chance, and now we just got beat by the worst team in baseball. Now, on paper, worst team in baseball. Or not on paper, on the standings, worst team in baseball. But I'm upset, honestly. I'm upset that, it's one of those things, and I got to bring this back to what we were talking about holding guys accountable. Rick Tocchet with the Vancouver Canucks game after Game 5, said that some guys needed to pick it up, obviously alluding to Elias Pettersson. And then we saw two of Pettersson's best games of the playoffs, the next two outings. I'm sorry, it can't just be a room thing. It can't just be I'm going to go talk to these guys in the room, but I'm going to spin it into the media. Sometimes these guys need the heat, and sometimes you got to put it on them. And if they're not grown adults and can be able to handle that, then tough. Then maybe this team doesn't have what it takes to win. And maybe we should start realizing that as fans, because I don't think John Schneider is going to do a hot thing about it. And I don't think Ross Atkins, well, maybe he is. Maybe that's why he's asking around. But these players aren't doing anything about it. I'll tell you that for free.
Well, and then Ross Atkins goes out in his press conference and just kind of feeds exactly what Toronto Blue Jays fans don't want to hear. And again, he's kind of in a tough spot because this is the team he constructed. Is he supposed to just say it sucks, like right off the bat? That pretty much is just setting himself up to be fired. But again, you look at the product on the field, I don't think this guy really has a chance, to be honest, especially if this team is going to continue its trend the way this season is going. But for me, with Bo, Bichette, and Vladdy, again, like in 2 weeks, I'm going to have my final decision on this, honestly. After this Pirates series, I'm going to know where I stand. But as for right now, I could definitely see one of them being moved. I think for me at this point, I unfortunately would rather see Bo being moved because I just think he has more value. And this team, the most obvious thing in my opinion on this team is we lack power. And it's the most obvious thing ever. Nobody's hitting home runs. And to go deep in the playoffs, especially when you have some of the best pitchers in the MLB pitching to you, it's sometimes the entire game relies on one swing of the bat. When you cannot drive the ball out of the ballpark, it makes things a whole lot harder, especially offensively. And we're seeing that product on the field right now. But saying that, I think we'll try our best to say at least one thing positive about the Blue Jays maybe in this next segment. I don't even know if that's what the fans are looking for anymore. I think they're just looking for genuine, honest opinions about the Blue Jays, and I think this is probably as honest as we've been all season. But saying that, we have a lot more to talk about. We're going to go into the next segment covering the Toronto Blue Jays and Yusei Kikuchi. God, I feel so bad for that guy, but we'll get into all that coming up. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entries in as little as 60 seconds. I'm going to go with the narrative on this podcast. I know I normally place Blue Jays bets, but might as well. I'm going to go with the White Sox today. I'm going to go Paul DeYoung, the Jays killer. I'm going to go over his fantasy score at 6 or more than. I'm going to throw one. I'm going to throw at David Schneider because I still love that guy. I'm going to throw him, and he's on my fantasy team. I'm going to have more than 6.5. But with the Blue Jays at this point, Prize Picks gives you a perfect opportunity to, if we're going to watch terrible baseball. You might as well make a little bit of money off the White Sox, I guess. So if you know which players are going to perform on specific nights, this is a no-brainer. Download Prize Picks and start making your picks today. You download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100.
Well, we were said you sort of said that we were going to have something positive. I have nothing positive. I maybe have one positive here. Okay, Blue Jays lose 5-0 to the White Sox. That's number one. Number two, here's a little bit of positivity from me, okay? Yusei Kikuchi goes 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, only 2 of them earned, 6 Ks, 3 walks. Before we get into more of the stats and stuff, there's almost no stats anyway. Is that and this isn't positive. This isn't going to be positive, what I'm about to say. It sort of is. Yusei Kikuchi, I don't think had his best day, but it still should have been good enough. He wasn't locating as well as I think he would have wanted, and I think he saw that on his face. And I think the feeling on the mound looks like, oh crap, I can't give up another run. Because there was no support. And I think he knew that in his head. He's like, I got to be perfect. And he wasn't perfect today. Don't get me wrong. Yusei Kikuchi was not perfect. But he was good enough where this baseball team should have been able to get the win. Or something. Help. Would have been good.
Yeah, you pretty much stole the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the same thing. Yusei Kikuchi didn't really have his best stuff today, to be honest. But this Chicago White Sox lineup is just not good. I'm saying it right now. So, I mean, that did help him out a little bit. But you just saw with Kikuchi's pitches, his command has been one of his best things this season. I found today he was getting himself in a lot of down counts, a lot of 2-1s, 2-0s, 3-2s. And some of the pitches he was missing just didn't really look like Yusei Kikuchi misses. He was missing the strike zone by a foot and a half, all the way in the dirt when he's usually pretty competitive with his pitches, especially his curveball that has been so effective for him this season. But again, when you're looking at Yusei Kikuchi's numbers this season, like this guy has a 2.64 ERA. He's given up, I believe it's 17 earned runs in 58 innings, and he's 2-4. Like, it's so frustrating for this guy. Like, he goes out a couple of weeks ago. I think it was against the Minnesota Twins, if I have that correct. And he goes 8 innings and gets the loss. Again, today, doesn't have his best stuff, but good pitchers work through outings. And he gave the Blue Jays, I can't even say he gave him a chance to win because he gave up 3 runs. And that's pretty much over for this team. Like, it should be enough to give him a chance to win. That's definitely not a bad pitching line. But for how terrible this offense is, I mean, like, he's got to 6 innings and 1 run is almost like debatably not good enough. If you give up 1 run, like you said, it's probably so mentally draining on the mound thinking, oh, I throw 1 mistake pitch and 1 thing happens. I probably just lost my team the game. And that's a mental burden that should not be on these pitchers, but you got to think it probably is in the back of their head. And I mean, just to sum up this game for me, I mean, just looking at the 9th inning, again, this team is dead in the water at this point, but you got your top. Again, I love the top 3 in this order. I think this is how it should be every game. But you get David Schneider called out on strikes. Danny Jansen called out on strikes. Vladimir Guererro Jr. called out on strikes. It's just like, that's exactly how this Toronto Blue Jays game went. And my only positive spin zone I have for this game is Justin Turner finally did it. He finally got a hit. Again, the Blue Jays were getting perfect game through 4 innings this time. I think Justin Turner's hit, I believe it was in the bottom of the 5th, broke that. Ernie Clement with the other single. I mean, just a classic Ernie Clement hit, not hit very hard. And then the walk, I believe, was Jano. Again, who cares? It's there's 3 base runners. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, well, it's just not going to be enough offense.
Kitty, I'm not going to lie to you. That's great. Justin Turner broke his streak. He is terrible defensively. Terrible. Yeah. Like, that was. He tried to pick that ball. I think that was thrown from Boa, I think, right? Or was it Ernie?
Third base was Ernie.
Yeah.
He looked almost scared of the ball trying to pick it.
He was terrified.
Like he usually, like, at least Vladdy, like, he tries to swipe at it. Justin Turner kind of, I think he clearly misplayed it, but again, a little bit of a tough hop, but he goes back. He kind of tries to catch it. Like, his glove's almost on his belly button. I don't know. I'm completely out on Justin Turner defensively. I've been saying that since I think it was the 2nd game they tried to throw him at third base, and he just watched the ball on the first and up the first baseline. But then, I mean, I don't know. You look at Vladdy, and I think it was the
Yeah.
second game of the race series, he
Yeah.
makes 2 errors as well. So, I
Yeah.
mean, the
It's
defense this
it's not
year,
much better. And
uh,
honestly, you can't even complain about the defense because the offense is doing nothing.
you can't complain. Everything comes back to the same problem because you have to play perfect baseball to win a game, it seems like. And the only exception, I guess, was probably that first Chicago White Sox series. Like, this team doesn't score runs that often. So when it happens, it feels like we're sarcastically celebrating and we're like on top of the moon and all this stuff. And some of those feelings are real, but I think it's because it's almost like winning the lottery in a sense, because it just doesn't happen. When this team scores a lot of runs, you're like, oh my God, this might not happen again for another month.
Yeah.
And
No,
again,
I was at work today, Carter, and I'm hearing the scores. We got our sports show going on. And I'm hearing the scores come through. I'm producing the show. And every time I'm getting looks because the Jays are doing so horribly. And I'm like, I was happy yesterday, but it's so far and few between.
we said that we were going to go into one of the reasons Justin Turner was struggling. I started doing that, but I was also watching the Jays game, and I have another story about what just my day looked like today with the power BS.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that in third. Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. But my spin zone for Justin Turner is I looked up average bat speed. And again, this guy is 39 years old, but I mean, this definitely plays into the power. And I mean, Justin Turner, you could tell, I think it's because of his approach. He fouls off a ton of balls, but who cares at this point how many balls are fouling off when you're like 1 for 31 in your last however many plate appearances. That's off the top of my head. It's around there, not exactly it. But Justin Turner, he has the fourth slowest average bat speed in the league. And this list, I mean, like Justin Turner, would you say Justin Turner's a power hitter?
No. Well, not now.
I would say, like, historically, though, throughout his career, you could give him at least
Yeah,
a
okay.
little bit of power. He's a 20, 25 home run guy. But he's in the likes of, like, this list goes Luis Urias, obviously not a home run hitter. Stephen Kwan, not a home run hitter. Nicky Lopez, don't know a ton about him. He's a White Sox guy, so probably not a home run hitter. And then it's Justin Turner. And then you got, like, Josh Rojas on this list. You got Charlie Blackmon. You got IKF.
Is he lower than IKF?
Yes, he's lower than IKF.
That is brutal.
Yeah, IKF on this list is 11. So, yeah, if you know anything about IKF, he's a contact hitter. So that's not a great look for Justin Turner there. I guess I'll get into one more positive. I actually do have one more here, and I guess we'll get into segment 3 because I don't know. I want to forget this game, but it's gonna be in the back of my head for a very long time. Even if the Blue Jays win this next game, maybe if they take, I think it's a 4-game set against the Tigers. That's we'll get into probably next episode. They take 3 or 4 against the Tigers. Maybe they beat the Chicago White Sox. I'm a little bit more in, but again, we got to see more from this team. But saying that, Yusei Kikuchi's his average four-seam velocity over left-handed starters in the entirety of the MLB. He is number 7, sitting at 95.6. Because, I mean, again, Yusei Kikuchi, he has been one of the most, if not the most reliable pitcher for this Toronto Blue Jays team. I love seeing this guy go out there. He always has – he looks so confident on the mound this year, and that's what I love about him. But, I mean, if you want to spin zone this, John Schneider giving so much props to this White Sox pitching staff, mostly Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is the number 1 average four-seam velo guy in the league. So, again, this guy isn't bad. But the point that I was trying to make, and I think the point that you were trying to make as well, is that we're just sick of these excuses at this point. You got to find ways to hit MLB pitching because there's a lot of good pitchers in the MLB. You're not going to get a bum going out there every single time. You're probably not going to get a bum going out there 10% of the time. They're in the MLB for a reason. These pitchers are good. They have good stuff. So at the end of the day, you got to just stop making excuses for this offense, and they got to start hitting baseballs and driving runs in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you're bang on. I have nothing else. I have nothing
left.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know what? We got to go into tomorrow's game or today's game. And then also, what a weird day well, it was weird for me because I was like a little bit panicking, but we'll get into all that right up.
Today's episode is also sponsored by eBay Motors. Take care of all your vehicular maintenance needs with our partner, eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your partner's guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Whether it's a new spoiler, new brakes, a new alternator, or you just want to deck out your ride, eBay Motors will have everything you need. They are super easy to deal with, very knowledgeable, and their experts give great advice that is very specific to your needs. So to keep your ride or die alive with eBay Motors, you can go to ebaymotors.com. Eligible items apply, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers.
Not gonna lie, I had a huge hair in my mouth. Jesus, almost choked. Like, it was disgusting. Oh, what a start. What a start to segment 3 here. Holy moly.
Yeah, that's exactly what the people want to hear. But I guess I'll go into just kind of what happened today. So we filmed the podcast pretty late yesterday. Like, I didn't end up going to bed, I think, until, I don't know, like 1:30. You might have been up later knowing you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was eating, what was I eating last night? Pizza?
You made,
yeah, I had a pizza.
I think didn't you make steak last night? Or was that
Oh,
the
yeah.
night before?
No,
Anyway.
I had pizza I made a frozen pizza for lunch because I had got off the plane, work, ate pizza, and then, yes, you're right, I made steak last night, too.
Yeah, what a weird time to make steak. But anyway, the point of this story was the power was on in our apartment pretty late last night. And then I started my job today, which, I mean, it wasn't bad at all. I'm not complaining about the work I had to do today. But I wake up at 6:45 this morning and I see that our stove isn't on. Like, it's just beeping, and that's just an obvious sign for me that there was a power outage. But the lights and everything were working in specific spots in the room or in the apartment we have. So I don't know what the problem is. Clearly, the hydro was here all day. Manitoba Hydro is like everything with our electricity, all that kind of stuff. Wi-Fi we have. We're pretty much completely screwed if we don't have this stuff, especially now that we have this podcast. But saying this, so we didn't have our Wi-Fi, and our Wi-Fi is what runs our TV. And we live in the basement of our triplex. So I couldn't load a single thing. So what did I do to watch the Toronto Blue Jays game? I drove my car 4 blocks away and sat in my car the entire time just to watch the Toronto Blue Jays not score a run and get 2 hits.
No, you did not.
I had to do. I mean, I got to grind for the people here, but I mean,
that is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. Especially that they did not score a run and got beat by the worst team in the league. For you to go 4 blocks away and sit in the car.
Well, and like our fridge, it was like I wanted to eat a hot meal because I woke up a little bit later than I should have, and I didn't feel like making food in the morning, so I just packed a bunch of cold stuff. I get home hoping that at least I can use the microwave, but no, I ate cold salmon. That's what I got dealt in the cards. Wasn't horrible, but I mean, definitely could have been better for me. I was just hoping that at least the night would go a little better. I was a little bit tired as well. I kind of wanted to maybe take a nap before as well. Didn't end up happening, but yeah. And then I get rewarded with just a great Toronto Blue Jays game.
Yeah, well, you texted me. So last night or yesterday, I guess, right before I got home from work, I ripped to the co-op nearest us. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I want a pizza. I'm going to get a frozen pizza, and then I'm going to get steaks and some salad and whatever, make some stuff up. And so I go and I buy 4 steaks, threw 3 of them in the freezer. And then Carter texts me so I woke up this morning when I woke up, and like the bathroom light worked, my room light worked. And I was here till probably, I got up pretty late. I think I left by like 12:30. And I walked out, didn't really think about it. I was just sort of so dead. I was trying to catch up on some sleep from the weekend. I get to work and I get a text. I'm like, oh, power's out. Okay, that's weird. Didn't really think anything of it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just bought 4 steaks. I'm hoping nobody opened the freezer. Thank God they're fine. All the food was fine. The Manitoba Hydro guys got everything up and running literally as I pulled in the driveway. So that was sort of clutch of them.
There's actually one part of the funniest part of the story. I can't believe I forgot about this part. So obviously, like I wasn't on my phone all day at work, but I was like using my phone. I use my phone with GPS, stuff like that. And obviously I'm streaming this Blue Jays game, but I'm halfway through the game and my phone is at 5%. And I don't have a self charger here. So instead of sitting in my car, I got to drive. I go to multiple buildings. And luckily in Manitoba, we have places where you can plug in your cars outside of buildings. So I'm sitting outside the co-op grocery store, just outside on this curb with my phone on the charger, watching this Toronto Blue Jays game, probably looking like the biggest dummy in the universe. But I mean, the things I got to do to keep this stuff going here, just get some analysis for the fans. But I mean, this when you,
I walked
we live in
right
the
up.
same
That
place
is the
here.
most ridiculous story I've ever heard. There's no way you're sitting outside like a homeless person just to watch the worst Toronto Blue Jays game, maybe of all time.
Yeah, and this I had to go. I think it was at the bottom of the 6th inning. I can't remember if Ernie Clement had a hit or not, but they didn't get a hit for the rest of the game. So that's how I got rewarded for my my loyalty to the Toronto Blue Jays. But that's just, I mean, all the ride or die with this team. Even if we go 0-90, whatever, how many games left we have, it's probably a little bit more than that. Yeah, I'm a ride or die for this team. I just want them to play better baseball, man. I mean, wait, at this point, I'm just wasting my evenings watching this team. Yes, I mean, I might just be a Bison's fan now. I hear the Bison's doing pretty well. I mean, Spencer Horwitz is raking. Earls Martinez, fun to watch. Barger got back down there, started raking. Maybe I'll just turn my attention to the Buffalo Bisons, and we'll actually win some games here.
Card that sounds great, but I'm also like not gonna pay for the MLB beat whatever it's called to watch Bison's games. The only time I did that actually was I tuned into their games when Vlad was coming up and was in AAA. That sounds so nerdy of me, but like I just wanted to see this guy like at one point he was hitting balls into that what was it, like a hotel or something behind the Bison Stadium.
Vladdy at the Bison Stadium is a different Vladdy, man. Like we gotta just return to the Bison. Maybe can we just switch? Like I know like kind of team stuff like this, but I mean we might have to make a sacrifice here. We might have to move the Toronto Blue Jays to Buffalo for maybe a season here and see if that revives Vladdy or not. Because this guy was an absolute menace when he played in the Buffalo Bison Stadium when we had the COVID year back in 2021. I mean, I don't know if we needed to pull a Twins and start throwing rotten sausages at these players. I don't know what this is going to have to take. Bring the home run jacket back. I'm down for anything at this point. We need something to change, and whatever it takes. I mean, if it means I got to shape, but we got to go back and have the reinforcements back. Maybe me and you strap up and we start taking some at bats, throwing some elbows throughout the strike zone, taking some pitches, just laying our bodies on the line for the boys.
We do anything for this team. So you know what? Strap me in there. I'm gonna pull off the Davis Schneider mustache. I'm shaving everything tonight. And I'm going Davis Schneider mustache. Put me in the box. I'll take one to the face for this team.
Yeah, body's on the line. Again, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if there is a fix for this team at this point. Maybe it's a big trade. Maybe it is moving Bo or Vlad. Maybe it's firing John Schneider. I don't really see that happening. But something's got to give for this team, and it's got to happen right now. This team has, I think, again, 6 games under 500 now. I think they're 21-27, if I have that right. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I would just like to say thank you guys for hanging along for the ride. Thank you guys for, if you still are, continuing to watch Toronto Blue Jays baseball. And if not, you're not watching that, thank you for just tuning into our recaps and our mostly negative emotions and just maybe some of our delusions on this podcast. We definitely appreciate it. This is it's therapy at this point, but I don't even know if it's therapy.
It's not therapy. It's a sounding board. It's a sounding board. You just yell at a wall. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm yelling at a wall.
It's making me just feel worse about this team. I mean, I don't know. I don't like. Do you have any solutions here? Like that's the last thing. You got anything? Yeah, you got anything other than us like suiting up?
This guy? No shot. What are you kidding me? We're gonna get called armchair managers or whatever again.
Well, I mean, armchair managers might be the play here. Maybe we just get Twitter to run the Blue Jays. That's all. They have some good takes. I mean, Jose Brios would have probably pitched that whole playoff game if Twitter was running the Toronto Blue Jays. But like I just want to say, thank you guys for watching one more time. We forgot to do this in segment 2. I am pretty gassed, so I'll take this one on the chin. But got to throw it over to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, or the Amazon Fire TV channel's app, expert analysis, whether it's the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. But I'm sorry, I don't really care anymore. The Canucks are out. College sports, whatever you want to tune into, perfect opportunity to get expert analysis all day. Might as well take advantage. You got anything else to add? Do a series win tomorrow? I can't believe I switched to a sweep. I should have knew better. I got a little bit too high, caught up in the emotions. Danny Jansen got me a little bit too fired up. And I was going to get our predictions, our series predictions for this stuff here. But who are we kidding? I mean, we both had a series win. We're trying to manifest Blue Jays wins, and it's just not happening. If I was being honest these last 2 weeks, I probably would have bet a series lost every single time. But I mean, I'm trying to will this Blue Jays team to a win. it's not working. So I'm going to try to just throw out these series predictions for a couple weeks, see if we can get this turnaround. If not, maybe we'll go back to it. Maybe we won't. But I can't look at my predictions when they're just wrong every single time because I'm trying to just manifest some wins for this Blue Jays team.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. And you know what? I forgot. I did make a promise to you and Justin, and I didn't follow through. And I said I was shaving everything off and growing out the most disgusting mustache for this slow pitch season. And I'm not sure if I said it on the podcast or not, but I will honor that for sure. So tomorrow I will have the start of the most disgusting mustache in baseball.
Maybe that's the fix we need. Like we got Alek Manoah cornrows, we got a hairstyle change there, and it's worked pretty well for him. Maybe I'll like I don't know. I heard shout out to Johnny Junta from a Game 14 podcast. He said if the Jays go 10-3, he's going to get cornrows. That's absolutely insane. But maybe that's just what we need to do. All the podcasting guys need to band together and just do a bunch of hair changes. Because clearly, Kevin Gausman, he cut his hair. He looked good. Alek Manoah does it. Maybe that's just the ride we got to get on here.
All right. I think you just got to roll with the mustache. We're just going mustaches the rest of the year.
I might look like I'm not going to say what I would look like, but you can use put 2 and 2 together and you could probably figure out who I would look like and what I wouldn't want myself to be represented as. I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully it gets better tomorrow. I don't know if I count on it. Leave your comments on how you feel about the Toronto Blue Jays team this year. I think I know what you're gonna say, but I feel like at this point we can just try to relate to each other. Get some of the negative thoughts out, and hopefully it gets better. But we'll see you guys tomorrow.